Hey guys, I'm the 50s kid, and behind me is my 2002 BMW 330i. I'm going to do a video about brake bleeding. I've already replaced the brake fluid in this car completely, and that's when my issue started. The pedal got a little softer after that. It actually got particularly soft after I changed the rear brakes to newer pads. In doing that, I compressed the piston back into the caliper. Ever since then, the pedal's been a little spongy. I've rebled the system to get a little more air out. I have since actually cycled an entire liter of fluid through the system, and it seems like on the rears, I'm still getting more air coming out of there during the bleed process. Sometimes it'll come out and then it'll stop, it'll be solid, and I'll think it's done, and then more will come through. I should probably start by saying that what I used at first was this kit from Harbor Freight. It actually comes with a bottle. When the fluid lowers in the master cylinder, this refills it, so it always keeps the master cylinder topped up, which is nice. And I used this, so I'm pretty sure that no air ever got into the system that way, which is why it's kind of a mystery why I'm still having problems. The other part of the system is this bottle with this little nipple on it, which is actually very nice. And the idea behind this is you can hook up a compressed air line to it. When you blow compressed air through here, it actually creates a vacuum in the line. That's the Venturi principle, if you want to look that up or whatever. I believe that is. That part of it doesn't really work that well. I find that it's kind of better to use this with the old style. One person pumps and the other person works the bleed screw. The only problem with that is that this actually doesn't extend down to the bottom of the reservoir, so it's not always submerged in fluids. So it's actually something I've been thinking about changing. I'll probably pull it, if I wanted to continue to use this, I would pull that line out there, off of there, and put a new line that goes all the way down to the bottom of it. So that when you release the brake pedal while you're pumping, you don't get air sucked back up through the line, because the line would always be submerged in brake fluid. So that's that system. That's the system that I used, and they say the best system to use is a pressure bleeder. And so I investigated how to make one. There are a couple of videos on YouTube already on how to make one out of just a garden sprayer. Why don't I show you right now a little closer view of my pressure bleeder and what I did, particularly with the cap. So this is my pressure bleeder. I believe this is a half-gallon tank. What I did was I got this gauge from Harbor Freight for a couple dollars, and I drilled a hole that was almost the size of the threaded end, and I threaded it in and wrapped a little bit of Teflon tape around it before I did that, and that works. The cap that I got is actually, it's the Dorman Help products that you'll see in like Pep Boys or AutoZone, and the part number is actually 42035. This one fits the brake master cylinder on the BMW 3 Series E46. The problem is that it's actually not airtight. You can't see it now, but there was actually a little air channel to allow air to actually get into the reservoir as the brake fluid in the reservoir lowered over time. And it turned out that I had to actually fill that in with some RTV. You can see first I used red RTV, and I also lined the inside of the cap with RTV as well. I didn't actually use enough, and I ended up using gray the next time. It'll stand up to twisting when you put it on. So that's what I did. I let that dry overnight, 24 hours, and now this is actually airtight. And you'll also notice that there is a air hose fitting connected to it that I just had. This is, and the matching fitting is on the line. This is so that I can thread the cap on first and then push this down on, as opposed to having to twist this line up. If these two were like connected, you would have to twist this line up, so you would have some room to, you'd have to twist it the other way anyway, so that you'd be able to twist the cap on, and you wouldn't have to untwist this the whole time after that. So that's the thinking behind that, and that works really, really well. The only thing I regret about buying this size is that it doesn't have a pressure relief valve, and I just didn't notice that. I knew to look for it, and I forgot to look for it. So definitely don't forget to look for it. I guess maybe this is just too small a size and you needed to buy a gallon one in order to get that. I don't know. But definitely get one that has a pressure relief valve. In fact, I'm thinking about getting another one. But right now this is just working for me, so I'm using this. They say don't go over 2 bar, which is about 29 psi. I've just been doing 20. That's been working for me. Why don't we take you over and show you how to hook this up and how to bleed the brakes. Okay, step 1, disconnect the brake fluid level sensor and disconnect the cap. Just drain off some of the excess fluid there and tip this upside down and put it on a rag, set it aside. Make sure you put some rags around the reservoir. Looks like that doesn't want to stay, just in case you get some spills. It'll help contain things. Brake fluid is very corrosive. It's very non-polar, and it will eat right through your paint. So do not get it on your paint, whatever you do. Take your cap, put it on, and get it as tight as you can. You want it airtight. You don't want this to leak. Now, when you're first doing this, when you first have made your pressure bleeder, hook this up without any fluid in it and pump it up and make sure that you can get it up to 20 psi and you don't have any air leaking out. You don't want to put fluid in this first before you've pressure tested it, because if that cap leaks, fluid is going to leak everywhere, and that's a really bad day. Ask me how I know. So I actually know that my pressure bleeder is actually airtight now, so I'm going to fill it with fluid and pump it up, and then we're going to bleed the brakes. Okay, so before we get started, I wanted you guys to see what the symptom is. I wanted you to see how much pedal travel I have, and this is it. You can see that there's a pretty good amount. And that corresponds to the amount that I was able to push the master cylinder in by hand in my other video when I was my other video about changing the brake booster. So that's why I believe that there's air in the system, and that's the air that I'm trying to get out. And I'm going to use a combination of the pressure bleeder and pumping the brakes to get this air out, because I believe that the air might be trapped in the back of the master cylinder, and that's why it wasn't getting out before with just the pressure bleeder. I think I need to also press and move the piston and make sure just all that air gets out of there. So that's what I'm going to do. You come back here and uncap the bleed nipple, and you need a 9mm wrench. I'm starting with the rear right, which is the passenger side. And I've just got some 1/4" OD 3/8" inch ID tubing here from the hardware store, and it's in a bottle with a little bit of brake fluid in the bottom, and the tube is long enough to be submerged in the brake fluid. That way, when I pump the brakes and when I release the pedal, if a little bit of fluid gets sucked back in, if something gets sucked back in, it's going to be fluid and not air. So that's why I don't just have a tube hanging out here in the air. You got to have the tube submerged in the fluid. So I've already pumped up the pressure bleeder. I'm slipping this over the nipple. And if it's been a while since you've cracked your bleed screw, it's a good idea to spray some WD-40 on here and just let it penetrate. I know I've cracked my bleed screw recently, and it's good. And even still, when you do crack it, you just want to hit it. That impacting force is a lot better than straining and twisting and possibly stripping the nut. And you can see that the pressure bleeder is causing some fluid to come out. There's actually a bubble there, another little air bubble. You only need to crack the bleed screw open just enough to have the fluid come out. There you go, you got a lot of air coming out already, so we did have air in the system. A lot of it, looks like. I'm just going to let that drain until I see it stopping. And actually, to help this along, I'm going to go and pump the brakes right now while this is happening. Okay, I did that 5 times really slowly, and then afterwards I pumped the bleeder back up, and I didn't see what happened while I was doing that, but I can see that there are still bubbles now, which is actually kind of weird and disturbing. And this is what I was seeing before. I pumped quite a lot of fluid through here, and there were still bubbles, and there shouldn't be this many in the system. See, if I open it up the screw more, the bubbles kind of stop a little and they start again. See, the screw is so loose. Actually kind of holding, see, if I manipulate the screw around, it seems like it makes it start again. It's very weird. Yeah, if I move the screw this way, I can see it, I get a lot of bubbles. If I move it this way, I get no bubbles. It looks like I got it to a spot where I'm seeing no bubbles come through, so I'm just going to tighten it off. But you see, when I do that, the brake fluid starts to drain through, which is very strange because when I do this on the fronts, that doesn't happen. The fluid stays where it is. So yeah, normally you should see the bubbles stop after a while, and you should have just a solid line of brake fluid, and then when you close the nipple off, that fluid should stop there because the bottom of the hose is submerged in the fluid and the top is supposedly airtight, so there's no air that can get into the top right there and allow the fluid to drain out. So the fact that that is happening is very suspicious to me, and I don't know exactly why that is, and I think I need to figure out why that's happening before I can really be confident about this. I've been thinking long and hard, and what I've decided to do is remove the bleed screw and see if I can clean it out, and then maybe wrap some Teflon tape on it and put it back. And I'm going to use another bolt of the same size and thread to plug it in the meantime. That bolt is an M8 by 1.25, and I've put some Teflon tape on it as well. And I put a little catch container beneath this with a funnel beneath it, or on top of it. And I think basically when I take this off, the fluid's going to run down the side of the caliper and it's going to fall straight down, and then I'll be able to just rinse that off of the caliper with some brake cleaner. It's not going to come into contact with any of the friction surfaces. I'm just going to do that. I got it loose, and actually I'm going to look in there first. Yeah, you know, the fluid doesn't run out quickly at all, and it looks like there might be some crud in there. One thing I was concerned about, I read someplace online that you should crack open the bleeders when you compress the piston, when you're changing the brakes. That was actually something I had never heard about or come across before. And so they said, you know, to do that, just in case there's any corrosion inside the piston, if that pushes any junk back, it'll run out of the bleeder screw, I guess. So that part was pretty interesting. To take a look at this, it does look like, you know, there's some corrosion on the screw, whatever that white junk is. Let's see if you can see that. Yeah, and a little bit of corroded stuff on the threads of the screw. So that's kind of interesting. That might be the cause of our problems. Not really sure, but I'm going to take this back, clean it up, and see what we can see. I should also mention that in between what you last saw me doing and now, I went to the junkyard and I got some more of these bleed nipples off of an old car that I'm pretty sure is going to be crushed tomorrow. Every bit of it had been stripped except for these.
and I think I paid like 50 cents each for them. So I've got 4 new ones of those, and 2 of them actually did have corrosion just like this, and 2 of them did not. So I might actually use one of the ones that doesn't have any corrosion at all in place of here, but I kind of want to show what I would do if, you know, I didn't have the option of going to a junkyard and getting some new ones. I want to clean this up and put Teflon on it and see how it works and bleed using it. So yeah, I think maybe that's what I'm going to do for you guys. So I'm going to go do that. I'm back. I've got the bleed screw all cleaned up with some Teflon tape on the threads. And I think what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to compress the caliper to try to get some of that junk out of there, which I think is actually in there. And we're going to see what happens with that. It actually looks pretty good. Yeah, I don't think that there was much junk in there after all. Just looked like a little bit when I first opened it earlier. So, notice I've got a little bit of brake fluid there, which I don't like. Okay, there we go. Just kind of let that drip down onto my rag. Gonna reconnect the drain hose to the nipple. I've already got the pressure bleeder pumped back up and cracking it open. Already I like that. Yeah, that screw's not rocking around in there. I can open it up and get some flow. I hope you can see a little bit of stuff coming out of there, maybe 1 or 2 tiny bubbles. And what happens when I close it, I wonder? Oh, look at that. Fluid stays in the line. So this is definitely a positive result. I'm very happy about this. So I'm going to go ahead and open this. Get some flow going. I can see the flow is going. And I think what I'm going to do is pump the pedal 5 times, according to the instructions in the book. After finishing the 5th pump there, what you should do is have somebody close off the screw before you lift your foot off the pedal. But because I'm alone, I'm relying on the positive pressure of my pressure bleeder to keep the flow going out rather than sucking back in anything. So this all looks really good to me, and I'm gonna go ahead and do the other side. All right, here we are on the left rear, driver's side rear. Remember to disconnect or relieve the pressure on the pressure bleeder. Otherwise, you're really gonna be sorry. I very nearly forgot to do that. Thankfully, my catch bottle was pretty full, and that kind of reminded me. So I'm gonna break that free. Got my catch base in position below it. But again, we remember not much is gonna come out of there. In fact, I'm gonna take this opportunity to compress that piston, like on the other side. The caliper, I should say. And yeah, there's probably, I can see it a little bit better here. There's that same white crud sort of on the inner threads on this one, but I'm really not gonna worry about it. Yeah, you can see there's a lot more corrosion on this one actually. This one's really, really corroded. I mean, I can tell that the fluid on this car had never ever been changed. This is probably the best reason for changing your brake fluid, because water does get into it and it corrodes over time. I think in this particular case, I'm going to use one of the other bleed nipples that I have that I got at the junkyard. That's just a little cleaner. because we already know the result of cleaning it up. I mean, if I really had to, I would use this one, and I'm sure it probably would work, but why not replace it? In fact, I'm just gonna, a little bit quicker to install this way anyway. So right about there is where it's cracked off, so I'm gonna go about there. Release the caliper, clean that off, and go pump up the bleeder. Connect this guy up, crack him open, and you know, I've got some, it's actually rocking a little bit in there. I'm wondering if that needs a little bit more Teflon threading or not. Actually, you know, so far, so good. Like, we're not seeing a continuous stream of bubbles. And if I close this off, yeah, we're not seeing air getting in there. Yeah, I think what was happening before, honestly, is there must have been a very small leak in through the around the threads, even when it was tightened down. I guess that's the only explanation I can come up with. It's pretty surprising. But I'm gonna go and pump the brakes 5 times. Looking good. I'm gonna close her off. Yeah, and I can already tell you that the pedal feels nice and hard now. I can definitely notice a difference here. Check this out. That's a huge difference from before. Now that pedal's only traveling down a little bit. Basically, that's how I expect all brake pedals to kind of feel. I'm really happy with that. I can stop right here, but I'm going to bleed the other two, the fronts anyway, just because I got the car up on jacks right now. Just a quick note here, guys. This is, I just bled the right front, the passenger front, and all went well there. But when I was doing the driver front, I got that same problem of after I bled it and closed off the screw, the fluid did not remain in the hose. Air got in there, just like on the rears. So I'm gonna go ahead and say this one's corroded too, and I'm just gonna replace it with the second bleed screw, which I didn't use on the back brakes. Again, remember to disconnect the power bleeder, the pressure bleeder. Do not forget to do that. It actually doesn't look too corroded. The threads look fine, but I think that Teflon tape is just a good, it's corroded on the back there. I think that Teflon tape is a good idea to do just, you know, anyway. So no matter what your bleed nipples look like, if when you loosen them off, when you crack it open and you see the fluid flowing, if it rocks around in there, I'd take it out real quick like that without the pressure on, put some Teflon tape on it and pop it back in. In this particular case, I would have reused this bleed nipple. There's nothing wrong with it. I just had that one, I had Teflon tape on that one already. Connect this up, crack it open. You know, I gotta say, I'm really missing not having a pressure relief valve on that thing after having to relieve the pressure so many times. So definitely make sure that you get one with the pressure relief valve. In fact, I'm probably going to get one for myself, and I think I might even make a video, a more detailed video on how I put the pressure bleeder together, just to complement this whole series. I'm not pumping the brakes now because I've pumped them 5 times at each corner, and really the reason to do that is just to get air out of the, you know, if there's air trapped in between the 2 pistons in the master cylinder, it's just to force the air out of there. But I'm pretty sure that there never was air in there to begin with. And I'm gonna close this off. And we're good. Fluid's holding in there, which I'm happy about. So I figured might as well change the front passenger as well. Again, I've disconnected the pressure bleeder. Let's see what it looks like. Yeah, you know, it's pretty corroded there. A little bit of the white stuff. But really, I just want a new one with Teflon tape on it.
Well, to wrap things up here, we got a positive result. We fixed the problem. The brake pedal feels rock hard now. That's the way it should be. Who would have thought that that's what it would be, like corrosion on the threads there, and you know, use some Teflon tape, and air was getting in somehow when it must have been when I was closing off the bleed screws in between there or something. You know, that I don't know. That's all I can really think of. But yeah, that's what was causing it, and we came up with a fix. And this is actually something that I haven't seen anywhere on any message board or read in any book. Maybe it's out there. Maybe somebody has posted, but I didn't find that. So I hope this helps you if you're kind of having this problem. If you're stuck on this and you're just getting endless bubbles, yeah, that's what's going on. And this will actually work for, this video should apply to any car on the road. The usual order is to start with the passenger rear, go to the driver's side rear, passenger front, driver's side front. I should mention that this car does have, it does have that dynamic stability control system. It's part of the ABS system. Any car that has an ABS system, usually the manufacturers have a special bleeding procedure if you run the master cylinder dry, meaning if you get air into the master cylinder and it proceeds throughout the whole system, I guess the air bubbles can stick around inside the ABS pump and stick to the little nooks and crannies in there and not really get out. Gravity won't push it out, and the flow of the fluid won't push it out. So they have a special, you know, computer program that they hook up to the car that activates the pump and, you know, makes it run, and that gets the bubbles out. So I know that I didn't have to do that on this car because I never ran the master cylinder dry. That's what was so confusing. And now I'm confident in that I do not need that special bleed because I know I never ran dry, and we found what the problem was. The air never got in up here, the air got in at the back. Another thing I want to point out that's BMW specific is I'm using DOT4 low viscosity fluid. That's what BMW recommends for the E46s that have the DSC system without a pre-charge pump. I believe that's the 2001 model year and above. The ones before that, they had, you know, the first system was called ASC, and then they had a DSC system with a pre-charge pump, I think in around 2000, and then they moved to the DSC without pre-charge pump. And they recommend low viscosity fluid. I don't know if that blue fluid that people like to use so that when they do their flushes, they can tell when all the old fluid's out of there. I don't know if that's low viscosity, so you might want to check that out. You know, if you're the type of person who cares about these things. They say that they are interchangeable, so I don't know. I really don't know, but I used it anyway. I was able to find this at Pep Boys in my area, about $18 a can. It's a 1 liter can. You only need 1 liter. You should only need 1 liter to completely flush your system if you do it properly. If you don't run into the problem I ran into where air was getting in and messing with your results, and you were running through, you know, 2 bottles before you figured out what the hell was going on. So hopefully this video helps you and you don't have to go out and buy 3 bottles like I did before you finally find the problem. So yeah, good luck, and subscribe if you want to see some more. Thanks.